Hello, good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. I am Parthiban. I'm here to talk about, introduce Falco to everyone, and also going to give a concrete example so that you can understand the value of Falco today. That's the key objective for presenting this. So before we talk about the specific attack path, how we can use Falco, let's understand what is Falco first. Let's understand some of the basic aspect of Falco. Then we will look into the specific attack. So Falco is one of the first runtime security open source project. It was a part of the CNCF Foundation, right? It's basically like the value is a runtime threat reduction. What I meant by runtime threat reduction is on a real time, you can understand the malicious activity, all the suspicious activity from your containers on the Linux host, right? You don't have to wait for 15 minutes or 24 hours to understand something bad has happened, right? It is not about a prevention, it is about detecting something in the real time. Over time, the Falco was expanded to the cloud and Kubernetes in general. When I say Kubernetes, I meant the audit log of Kubernetes, right? It's not just about the containers and host. So that's the first thing I really want you to understand. So the question is like, okay, why do I care about Falco? The Falco is not just about the first security project. It is also one of the very popular project. We have like over 100 million downloads, especially in the last 2 years, we have 48% adoption rate. So it's definitely a significant traction. For a few reasons, I couldn't able to add the companies, but we have very massive enterprises are using and trusting Falco for their day-to-day operations. So there's a real value out there. And it's not just about, as I said, containers and host. Now we are bringing in a plugin architecture approach where you can collect stream or integrate sources from GCP, Azure, cloud logs, even from your IoT devices, and then use the Falco runtime capabilities to detect threats, right? You can do your own pet projects for your in-house cameras and etc. So a lot of value out there. And also Falco project offers a lot of inbuilt, out-of-the-box rules that are decently comprehensive, especially from a server and container standpoint. So that's one of the reasons, like, definitely you should think about Falco. But let me a little bit expand on the mechanism how the Falco really works, right? So the very key aspect of Falco is a rule engine with some built-in rules for detecting the malicious activity and threats. But you also can customize it. So the key part is you need to have data streams. You need to have a way to collect the data, and then the Falco engine comes into play. It acts on the data. For example, let's say you imagine you are a Linux admin, so you have a syscall as a kernel that is backing your server, right? So all the syscalls could be a data source for you, just like how I mentioned about your cloud logs. So syscalls, as being a data source, the Falco rule engine kicks in, and it can snip in a non-intrusive fashion and then make sense of some malicious activity. Let's say if you see an unexpected activity, an inbound activity, or some malicious IPs, or a download of binaries, all these can be detected in a real time, and Falco is very good at it, okay? And so it's one way to think about it, syscalls. Then you can have Kubernetes audit log. That is another data source. And then you can extend that to any number of data sources, and plugin architecture really helps you with that. I already mentioned earlier that you can use it for a lot of other use cases. Like, for example, if you want to look at the crypto mining activity, the Falco does a good job of finding them. You can also do a privilege escalation and rootkit install. A lot of other things you can do with that, but it comes with a comprehensive list of rules out of the box. Now, with that background, let's understand this new SCARLETEEL attack, right? Now, it sounds like a James Bond movie villain, but if you look at that, it is a sophisticated attack path. it start with your a compromised public-facing workloads, let's say your Kubernetes application, and then this pattern kind of spreads into your AWS real estate, right? That's one of the primary motive of a lot of attackers is not just your public-facing application. They really want to get into your crown jewels, right? So let's take a look at this, how this the attack pattern look like, right? You need to have the initial access, the application which is publicly exposed. You need to have certain CVEs that kind of provides affordance. Once you compromise that, and then you want to get the credential access. So in this case, what happens is that application happens to be hosted on the EC2, the AWS EC2 instance. So if especially the application owner is using the old version of the instance metadata server, you can easily hit that magic IP and then get some of the credential information. So there's a way to get the credentials, and then you can do a lot of malicious activity. You can download a bunch of stuff, run AWS CLI, and then get more additional access, and then you can do a lateral movement more towards to the rest of the AWS. That is the essence of this SCARLETEEL attacks. It was this pattern was well documented by Sysdig threat research team. And now for each of these things, you can have a Falco rule. Let's say for the initial access, if you see a suspicious inbound activity, right, you can have an unexpected inbound call rule that can detect it real time. Then you see that someone is trying to hit the metadata server from your EC2 instance, from your applications. That also can be someone is trying to contact that metadata service. This is not an acceptable pattern for the application. That is another rule for it. That also can surface a signal. And then third is, now they can run a malicious code, download stuff and run some scripts. These scripts are not part of your regular signature. You can detect those binaries, download as well as execution. So it's in as you said, every step, you could have a Falco rule backing up, and then you all can be correlated some way in a SIEM or other infrastructure to make sense of in a much faster time. You don't have to wait for 15 minutes or 24 hours to figure out what happened. This all could be done in a more real time. This is you can't read it, I understand it, but I have provided a link to the material. But the idea is just to kind of give you a proof of evidence that this is a rule for, hey, if your application is contacting the cloud metadata service, you could have event or an alert could be triggered, right? Alert looks like something like this, but it also can be piped to the various integrations, whether it's a Slack or other SIEM sources, that you can have it. My final thought is the Falco is highly adaptable solution. We're kind of doing a lot of work around the architecture of the plugin, and you can leverage across your IT footprint, whether it's you're running on AWS, you can use the AWS CloudTrail, Azure Logs, GitHub, whatever a platform that has a audit log, you can build a Falco rule engine. So with that, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Do you use an open source tool-based engine, or do you build your own?
Yeah, this itself, the Falco itself provides a rule engine, the project itself. And if you really look at the implementation of, we use the eBBF profs, especially for the instrumenting the Linux host, so that it runs on pretty much most of the Linux servers, and it's highly portable. We also have a universal adapter for the eBBF, so it's you don't have to go through a operational heavy lifting of building the kernel modules for everything. So it's much easier. A lot of frictions has been removed. Okay, thank you everyone, appreciate it.